Welcome to the fourth part of the series about how positive thoughts influence and create positive results. I wanted to take a different approach tonight. Last time we discussed the idea of bitachon, of trust. When a person really trusts in Hashem, good results come about from it. The idea of think good and it will be good. Now, again, if a person has sincere and true positive thoughts, they really believe it, that good results will follow. I want to take a different approach tonight. It leads to the same end, but it's a different way of thinking about it. And it's a way of thinking about it that maybe a person can think about it in their daily life. It will have special meaning to those who are scientifically inclined. The modern physicists teach us something very interesting. They say, in a similar way to Judaism, that the world as we know it exists in multiple dimensions. That there are multiple dimensions to what we call and perceive as reality. One dimension is length. The second dimension is length and width. A two-dimensional object would be like a photograph. The image in a photograph is a two-dimensional object, or a painting. The way that we could see a moving two-dimensional object. Everyone remember from the early 80s, the first Mario Brothers series? We had this like flat man, and he was like kind of like cruising along, jumping over stuff. He existed in the second dimension. There was no coming out, or Pong. Anyone remember Pong? I'm dating myself over here. Anyone remember Pong? It's this two-dimensional tennis game where you have this flat ends, and they're hitting this flat ball back and forth. That's the second dimension. That's two-dimensional, just length and width. The third dimension is the one we're most familiar with, length, width, and depth, or height, whatever you want to call it. Now, for someone living in two-dimensional world, Mario, we'll call him, the thought of three dimensions, that there's not just going forward or going back, that you can go this way also, is unheard of. It doesn't register. It doesn't register in the consciousness of Mario that there's a third dimension, that there's something that is not in his line of sight, his line of vision, something else out there. So in a similar way, we move on to the fourth dimension. What's the fourth dimension? Fourth dimension, as described in the scientific texts, is the dimension of time. Time. Now, what does it mean to see something in the fourth dimension? It's not a concept that we can relate to because we don't see things in the fourth dimension. But let's talk about it for a second. The idea of time as the fourth dimension means that when you look at a person, we'll use a person as an example, you see them not only as they exist right now, but you also see them as they exist a minute from now and a minute ago. In fact, not only a minute from now or a minute ago, but you see them, their whole life, all simultaneously wrapped up into one person, wrapped into one being. So that from womb to tomb, from birth till their passing, you see them all in one simultaneous way. The concept is unfathomable because we can't relate to it. We live in a three-dimensional world. The fourth dimension, the fact that there could be all time existing at the same time, doesn't make sense to us. But that's what we're taught by the physicists. And incidentally, very interestingly, Judaism says a very similar thing. In the writings of Rabbi Eliezer Dessler, one of the famous rabbis of the early 20th century in the Musar movement, he explained in his great work, the Michtav Eliyahu, as follows. It says, when a person is born, he's placed under the concealment of time. After his passing, the concealment of time is removed, and he will see everything simultaneously. He will see that time is a veil, since everything was really one thing appearing all together. basically saying that the fourth dimension is a real reality. We just can't perceive it. We live in the third dimension. It's hidden from us right now. Interestingly enough, we know, we've discussed several times before, Raymond Moody, Dr. Raymond Moody, famous psychiatrist who dealt a lot with near-death experience patients. So when we would talk to them about their experience that they experienced when they had the near-death experience, they described it in a similar way, that it was more like a kind of moving to a different realm. And they described time as existing all simultaneously and not in increments as we know it today. So that's the fourth dimension. So if you want to take it a step further, not just to the individual, that you see them from the birth until their death, all in one string, but take all of time, all of human history, from the beginning of time until the end of time, seeing it in one simultaneous bubble. That would be seeing everything in the fourth dimension. Everything existing simultaneously from the beginning of time until the end of time. Let's take it a step further. If we move another dimension, the fifth dimension, and we'll stop there for tonight. You get at every moment, see, the fourth dimension means the beginning of time to the end of time, everything that happened and will happen all at once, everything simultaneously. When it comes to the fifth dimension, you have to realize that at every moment that we exist, every moment that the universe exists, there are infinite amount of possibilities at every moment to do something different. Right now, I can do this, or I can do this, or I can do this. There's an infinite amount of possibilities of what I could do right at this moment. So the fourth dimension is everything that did happen and will happen, all seen simultaneously. Taking it a step further is at every moment, all the infinite possibilities that could have been at that particular moment. That didn't happen, but all the infinite possibilities that could have happened. That's the next dimension. So although, at the end of the day, they're only possibilities, they're only potentials, they don't actually happen, they didn't actually happen, what is a part of us that can also tap into a reality that only happened in potential so far? Is our thoughts. When we think about something, or when we speak about something, it didn't have to actually have happened, or maybe never will happen in tangible reality. But the fact that we're connecting our mind with this theoretic idea means that we're bringing that dimension, we're bringing that realm, we're bringing that potential reality closer to our own reality. When we look at things in a positive light, when we think positive, we're connecting ourselves with the potential reality that is positive. That potential, within the results that could be from a given situation, you could have the negative results, you could have the positive results. By thinking positive, we're connecting ourselves with that potential of positivity. We're bringing ourselves closer. We're making it more a part and more able to become part of our actual reality. This is another way of looking at the idea of how our positive thoughts attract and bring closer to positive results. Because we, as humans, again, express ourselves in thought, speech, and action. Positive thoughts lead to positive speech, which leads to positive action. Through a person beginning with positive thoughts and creating positive thoughts for themselves, they connect themselves with that reality, with that potential reality that is a possibility to exist. By doing so, we make it that much more able to become part of our actual reality. So positive thoughts lead to positive actions. Positive thoughts lead to positive results. Through the thoughts, good can happen. I'm going to conclude with a story. And this is a story, it's a general outlook on life. It's an analogy that's told by the Baal Shem Tov. The analogy goes as follows. Again, This is a life perspective analogy. Baal Shem Tov tells a story of a certain person who, after his time on earth, passes away, goes up to heaven. Now, before he goes into heaven, let's say he's greeted by an angel. I'm elaborating or ad-libbing a little bit on the story. He's presented with an angel who's doing the check marks. Okay, Mr. Epstein, all right, you led a good life, right this way. So Mr. Epstein says like this, Angel, I appreciate you letting me in, but I have a very unorthodox request for you. You've probably never heard it before. Can I just go see the other place? I don't want to go there. I don't want to stay there. Can you just show me it? Heard so much about it. Whole life, everyone's talking about it. So the angel, okay, I never had this before, but you know what? You lived a good life. I'll show you. So they go down, all the way down to HE double hockey stick, and Mr. Epstein is looking through the window. And it's not the scene that he thought it would be. No devils, no pitchforks, no fire, no volcanoes, no lava, no screaming people. He happens to see people who are very well dressed at what appears to be a cruise ballroom, the grand ballroom of a cruise ship. Everyone's ready to eat. The waiters come out. Piping hot food is placed in front of all of the people sitting at the table. They take off the lid. Everyone's mouth is watering. And everyone lifts up their hand to eat the meal. And attached to their hand is a 4-foot-long fork, and they can't eat the food. And they're screaming, oh, the pain, the pain. The food's sitting there in front of them, and they can't eat it. So Mr. Epstein says, oh, angel, take me out of here. I can't take this pain. They go back to heaven. And he's looking in the window. And he sees a very similar scene. Same well-dressed people. Same grand ballroom of the cruise ship. Same well-dressed waiters bringing out piping hot food, except in heaven, the food is glatt kosher, of course. They place it down on the table. They take the lid off. The food is piping hot. Everyone's mouth begins to water. And everybody picks up their hand. And again, attached to their hand is a 4-foot fork. And Mr. Epstein's thinking, oh my gosh, it's the same place. What's going on over here? All of a sudden, the people on this side of the table start feeding the people on the other side of the table. In our life, we can be presented with the same backdrop. Born in the same place, grow up in the same place, live in the same place, have the same job, same social status, same economic status. One person will have a life of hell, and one person will have a life of heaven. What's the difference? Perspective. Is life all about feeding me? Is it all about myself? Or is it selfless? Is it focused on the world? Is it focused on what I can do for the world? That is the determining factor. If a person's all about themselves, life is going to be hellish. If a person is focused on the outside world, what am I accomplishing? What can I do? How can I look at it in the positive way? What can I do for the world? The results will be positive. The person will think positively. That will bring positive results in their life. They'll be happier. All through perspective, all through our thoughts. How a person lives is determined by their thoughts. This week's meditation, this week's homework, thing to think about, is this week, throughout your working life, when things seem tough, think positive. Think positive. Really trust, really believe that things are going to work out. And they will. You'll see it. Transform also your day, and don't just leave things as positive thoughts. When you have a positive thought, move that also to positive speech. And most importantly, do something positive. If thoughts can influence the world, how much more so can actions? How much more so can when we actually do things and people are witnessing it? And it's not only creating things and manipulating things and influencing things in the material world, but people are seeing it and it's going to cause them to do it the same thing also. So it all begins with positive thought. So make sure this week. You think good, and it will be good.